wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Lynette, Serenity Springs Lynette by Username Investments Limited. There's one number to call them, 0725. And do the other digits?
222
No, the other way around.
000
Yes. 0725
000 222.
Very good.
Thank you.
Or you can SMS them the word plotty to 20321. That's 20321. Just SMS the word plotty. They'll call you back and tell you, hey, boss, naona umesikiza spice.
Sema yote.
Tunaweza kupatia ka discount ukiongea poa. Why? Because they want you to invest at Serenity Springs in Lynette. And what they've done is they've acquired this land. They've gone through the transfers. They've subdivided the land into several 1/8 plots. And they have acquired title deeds for each of those plots. So when you buy, you don't have to wait for at least 15 of you. Mwacha kuwa watu 15 ndio tuende kwa lands tukaweze kutransfer going back. No. You buy, the transaction is yours. Transfer the title to your name. Tukisonga. You can buy 2 or 3 or 4 plots. How much is a plot, City? Not much.
No, it's 1,499,000 shillings.
And you can pay in installments.
Yes. 1 month, 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months.
Bwana.
I mean, it's called having options.
Bwana. What more do you want? Surely. Just talk to them. Username Investments Limited, 0725 Ndu
000 222.
Yes, that's the number to remember. Our next guest is in the studio. City, how far is Tamu from Nandi Hills?
It's not far. If you come from Tamu, well, there are 2 routes actually. But let me use a simple one. You get to a place called Chemelil.
Chemelil.
Yes. Then from Chemelil, you then turn right. Place called Kopere. You keep going up. And when I say up, I mean you really go up.
It's a hill.
Yes, it's not at you go up as you literally see yourself climbing until you get to the very top. Yes.
That's Nandi Hills.
Yeah, it's not far. In fact, for a very, very long time before Chemelil became an established trading post, people used to go to Nandi Hills. That is where you accessed medical services. It was a big, it was a town. That's where you actually went to trade. Yes.
There's a town called Nandi Hills.
Yes, there is a town called, believe me, that place is beautiful.
Beautiful.
Yes.
And there's a constituency called Nandi Hills. Former MP for that constituency is our next guest, Alfred Keter. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Every time we see someone for the first time, it's a New Year somewhere. Yeah. Maybe it was a New Year in Korea last week or something. You know, Happy New Year.
Thank you for the belated.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
So you see, you guys are neighbors.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I come from Moroni.
Oh, Moroni. Moroni is not far from Nandi Hills. They still do many things from Nandi Hills town.
Actually, we do.
Even the hospitals and many
we do. In fact, many people who come from where I come from would actually rather go up to Nandi Hills. Yes.
Services.
There are more facilities up there.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Right. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah, very
beautiful place. All right. So we talk about, the politics and what's happening in the country shortly. But to welcome you to this conversation, CT, your neighbor will give you the day's proverb.
Yes. A rich man who does not know himself is worth less than a poor man who does.
A rich man who
does not know himself
is worth less than
a poor man who does.
Okay. Alfred, have you heard that proverb?
Yeah, it's a beautiful one.
How would you interpret it?
I think I'll interpret it in just one way. You have to do a SWOT analysis on yourself to get to understand your strengths, your weaknesses, your threats, and the opportunities. Because when you don't understand yourself, then you are worse off than someone who is lesser in terms of opportunities and strengths. If you are strong and you are not aware that you're strong, or to what extent are you strong, you're worth lesser than someone who is weaker, but he knows he's weaker.
Yes, because they'll then work on their weaknesses to get stronger. It's a good one. Alfred, what have you been up to since 2022?
I went back to school.
Huh?
I'm in University of Nairobi in a PhD program in Faculty of Business and Management Science. I'm doing a PhD program there from last year on measuring on strategic planning, strategic management.
That's a very good thing.
Yeah.
Very, very good thing.
Yeah.
Yes, you can. The only option you have when you add to your store of knowledge is benefit.
Yeah.
Yes. And you increase your own capacity.
Yes. Yes. A lot's happening in the country. I'm sure you're still involved in politics. We see you on social media making various commentaries on politics of the country and what's going on. What political party do you belong to, by the way?
I am not in any political party. You
Why?
remember, I was a member of UDA.
Yeah.
And because I believed in what they were promising Kenyans. I believed in their manifesto. I believe in most of the things they were raising and the concerns they are raising about this country. And politics being what it is. Again, I was coming from a community with a presidential candidate. Then, immediately after nominations, which I won by a big margin, we were told there was no election. There was no nomination. It didn't like there was no.
Your nomination was nullified.
It was nullified, but unfortunately, they nullified, saying it didn't happen. But they said, instead of, because by law, when there is a problem in an election, you either repeat the election, or there must be a way forward. But we were told later that because there was no election, we are giving the ticket to number 2.
Did they say number 2 or did they say...
Number 2. Because number 3 and 4 and 5 were complaining.
But number 2 in
on what basis are you giving this one?
Number 2 in what?
I don't know. I think that question should be
For
better.
you to have a number 2...
Yeah, there must be an election. There must be a number 1.
And there must be a way of determining
Because
this.
number 3, 4, 5 complained. 4, 5, 6. I think we were 7 candidates. They complained that why are you giving the current member of parliament? They were told no, because there were challenges. We decided to give number 2.
Is that the reason that they gave?
Yeah. That's what they were told.
But it's a bit confusing because just like Eric says, if there's a number 2, then there
must be a number 1. Yeah.
So why would they take the victory away from number 1 and give it to number 2 because of confusion?
Not just that, because they were saying there was no election. And now, if you are to number people, it means there was an election.
Okay.
Even before you get to the point where anytime there is a number 2, there must be a number 1.
We saw a lot of this happening in the last election, all right, where political parties were using several ways. 1, direct nomination, or 2, indirect, right? And we also saw where political parties would say that we have conducted opinion polls with 3 different agencies, reputable agencies, and this is what we have seen. And from those opinion polls, we clearly see who are the popular candidates. Jubilee did that. Even UDA in some areas was talking about opinion polling and seeing how candidates are faring. Is that what you were told, Alfred?
No, it happens. Opinion polls are carried.
Did they say that we are looking at the opinion polls and we are giving a candidate who is stronger according to the 3 opinion polls?
Let me correct that. Where opinion polls applies is where there is no nomination process, where there is no election. In regions where the party is not that popular, or in regions they don't want a contest, or for many other different reasons, especially when they want to move someone who is running for governor to a different seat, or to move someone running for women rep to be given a slot in the nomination in Senate, or National Assembly or County Assembly. That's where the opinion polls applies. But for us, there was an election, which happened.
I hear you. But I'm trying to go into the other side. Because the party said, as far as the party is concerned, there was no nomination. So then did they say we are now using opinion polls to award a certificate?
They didn't say that. They said they're giving to number 2. Because they didn't want me to be... And Eric and CT and our sister. No, you have to remember this. I've come a long way. And being what I am, because I cannot change, I believe in when you are elected as a member of parliament, you are not just representing the views or the positions taken by your political party. It is the people you represent and Kenyans at large, because at the level of National Assembly, you represent the people of Kenya, not just the people you represent in your constituencies. It is different from what happens in the Senate, which I think will, that's another subject which I want to discuss, because you're basing on before elections and after elections, what are the challenges that we have faced as a country. And so the point I'm trying to make is this. As a member of parliament, you have one responsibility and a role that is obligated to you by law in our constitution, to represent, to oversight, to legislate, and to budget, which are specific roles which are given by the constitution. And you actually oversight the executive, which is not the case at the moment, because that is what they wanted. They wanted a parliament where they could control. Because I remember, if you take your memory back to 2017, 2018, immediately after our election, they were now, when we got to parliament after being sworn in, we were to form committees, to be in different committees, and to elect leadership to the specific departmental committees in parliament. And if you remember well, I even went to court because I won to be the chairman of Labour and Social Welfare Committee. And I refused, and I declined the positions taken by the president then, Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta, with the deputy president, where a list from State House came specifying on who sits to be the chair of what committee, who sits to be a vice chair. You know, that's a role and a responsibility that is given to parliament. The members of that committee are given by law the power to elect
their
own leadership.
chairs.
And in any case, parliament should be oversighting the executive. So you cannot choose a referee as a player.
Sure.
You understand? And that is the reason why this country is going backwards. And I've had many stories, including even the new report, which was taken, I don't know, to Raila Odinga. Then I saw it to,
Nadco.
the retired
former prime minister.
The prime minister. And then they went to see the president, the Nadco report, which talks about the leader of official opposition. In this current dispensation, the opposition should be actually parliament, because they oversight the executive.
Okay.
And that is the reason why in parliament, there is no two sides. There is no opposition side and government side. I've seen they have tried to coin, like there is a minority and a majority side, meaning the majority is government and the minority is the opposition. That is not the case. We have a very clear constitution. And that is the reason why it is also illegal for the Senate to have a majority leader and a minority leader, because there is no provision for that in the constitution. And the makers and the drafters of the constitution were not blind, or it was not an omission, they missed it. They knew Senate represents the counties. And that is the reason whenever they are voting on issues which touch on the county governments, every vote counts. Those members, the 16 members who are nominated as women leaders to represent the interest of women, and the 4 others, which are two youths, which is meant for both gender, and the people representing the people with disabilities, the 4 members, they don't vote on those issues. They form, they become a group which is led by...
It's a caucus.
A caucus.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a term which
delegation.
It's a delegation.
Yeah.
It's actually a delegation.
Okay.
A delegation to go vote, and they have one vote. If you come from Bomet County for Joyce Korir, who is nominated, and she's a member, she's a commissioner. She sits at the Parliamentary Service Commission. And then there is a Senator Sigei, when it comes to voting, there is one vote. It is only Zege will vote. In the event that Zege is absent from Parliament, then he will delegate.
He will delegate that vote.
That responsibility and the power to Korir to vote.
Let's take a few steps back, because then a couple of weeks ago, you actually said that you were ready to take over the position of the opposition and you mentioned from Raila Odinga. So we can look at that in detail, but let's even go a few months ago when you said that you actually don't feel aggrieved that you didn't get this position because whatever UDA is doing now is different from what you believed that they were doing. Would you have this same belief had you won the seat and been given the seat?
If I had won, then I should have continued in oversighting the executive. I would be like Wamushomba. There are many members of UDA who have declined to be used as rubber stamps or puppets in both in the National Assembly and in the Senate. And the reason why I took that position, and it is good, it's a very fair question on matters of principle, that I agreed with them when they said they were going to uplift the standards of the law in the society. That is, they used mama bogas, borders, the Juakali sector, the young people, the women who have single mothers, and many others. They gave many promises. I believed in them because I come from this country. I come from a background where I understand the people who are so impoverished with poverty to the extent they have no means in terms of no housing, no water, no schooling, no food, nothing. And I believed in them. But the moment they took office, I remember the president saying, the moment he drops the Bible, things will calm down. Everything went up. And you see, I realized immediately, I knew to some extent, I gave him 80% chance that he was going to transform this country, even when I believed in UDA. But I had that reservation to say, I know this person. Many members of parliament from our community, including the retired president, Moi, and the many, let me not mention names, had warned us against the president, telling us he will, the moment he becomes a leader in this country, it is for his own selfish good and not for the interest of the republic. So we knew we had those, because we believed in him and we had come a long way. You know, myself, Alfred Keter, I was expelled from university for the same advocacy. And I stood at the time when Moi was the president against our community when they believed it is one of their own. And that is how I earned the respect by Moi. Moi retired and then let his soul rest in peace, knowing Alfred Keter could not be compromised.
So you're saying in this case then that regardless, if you had been in the seat, right, that if you had seen, if things had still been the same way and you were in that seat, that you would be speaking out in the manner in which you're speaking out today, it would be the same?
I will be more dramatic because I have a position. You know, when you're in parliament, I have a platform. I would have done more than what I'm doing at the moment because I believe, as a matter of principle, whatever they're doing is wrong.
Mheshimiwa, you are a two-term MP. That is not an easy thing. Most people just manage one term. You manage two. In the time you've been in the political sphere, I mean, when you start as a comrade in the university, you have been in the political space for quite some time. But even as a student and even as a member of parliament representing your people, surely, isn't it clear to someone who is in a position of power that the things you say you want to do and the reality of actually doing them are never the same? What you hope you can do, and then you get there, you realize, I can do this, but it isn't quite what I thought it would be. Is that not the reality that many leaders face?
It is a reality, but for what we are facing with Kenya Kwanza,
yes,
it is very unfortunate because they have lost the basics, even to prioritize issues. I have seen many debates, including yesterday, here. And you started a long time. By there, you've taken Kenya's, I give you credit to have enlightened many Kenyans, because we watch this program every day. It is so popular, I think, more than any other media house. But I just want to say this. If you see the priorities they are making now, even housing, from the word go, it is illegal, it is not a priority, it is irregular, it is irrational. If you are to base on anything, and I know housing is a problem in this country, but the Constitution, the provisions are clear. Most lawyers say they are clear, but I think, the Constitution is written in a form that every layman can understand. Housing is a devolved function. And the drafters of the Constitution did not make a mistake by devolving it, because the needs of housing are different from every part of this country. When you go to Samburu or you go to Baringo, housing to them, the pastoral communities, is not a problem, because they are moving with their animals. And I mean, what you call housing in Nairobi is not the same housing in Turkana County or even in Nandi Hills, for God's sake. So I just want to explain this. And you see, you have your functions, which are national functions. They are claiming that, one, this is a right which is in the Constitution. It is a right, yes, but the Constitution is clear that if, in the event that you are transferring that function, even from a government to another government, the responsibility of implementation and ensuring that function is working is the government, that function is given as per the fourth schedule of the Constitution. So it's clear. Housing is a county function. Even the challenges that we face in Nairobi here, the slum issues, but you must remember, there is also legislation which should be done at the national level on cities and urban centers, which there was an introduction when I was in Parliament. I remember it was called the Metropolitan, where you approach the city differently. It's not just a county. This is different. The challenges that Sakaja is facing is not like for any other governor, because Nairobi is the capital city of this country. And there are needs which are different from any other county. There are needs which are different for a city or a town or an urban center. And I want to say that in as much as housing is a problem, let the devolved function be addressed by the governments which are obligated by law. And if we are to go ahead, not just about the illegality, even the irregularity, how you are collecting, the finance, there is on principles of public finance, Article 201 of the Constitution. It talks about the burden of taxation shall be shared fairly. Meaning, you cannot tax you, Eric, because you are already giving out a pay as you earn from whatever you get. That other extra tax is not fairly on the basis of you're already facing. It's not like someone like me who is doing business. I don't pay as you earn. I pay income tax, which is different. But you pay as you earn and many other taxes. If you were to explain in any front, including you go to a county and force county governments to relinquish their land, which are community land, meant for public reasons, different. Schools, public hospitals, some are even for sports facilities, and then you turn them to housing.
So what are you against specifically? Because
what I'm saying,
you were,
a member
until the nomination debacle, a member and supporter of UD and Kenya Kwanza.
Yeah.
This is a part of the manifesto of Kenya Kwanza. The 5 things that lead the Kenya Kwanza manifesto. Housing is one of them. Universal health coverage, food security, that's agriculture and supporting agriculture. And then SMEs and digital economy. Housing is there. And the Kenya Kwanza manifesto talks about what they will do for housing. So if you supported it then, how can you come now and say, this thing is so wrong, it's a devolved function? You knew it was devolved when you were supporting UDA at the beginning.
UDA is not, it doesn't belong to only national government. It has members.
The manifesto did not say we shall devolve this thing.
It was devolved by the constitution. The manifesto cannot rewrite a constitution. Eric, allow me to say this.
What did you support?
You've asked your question. Let me answer. I supported the housing, but to be implemented by the provisions of the constitution, which is a devolved function. The same case as agriculture. It is also devolved. What the national government should do is to work on policy, and that is what is in the constitution. That's their function, even both in health and other than the national referral hospitals and policy.
You were, as a member of parliament then, you are a leader and a senior leader in, of course, the formation and the movement to Kenya Kwanza into UDA. Did you have these conversations as leaders of UDA then to say, so how are we going to implement? What is this? What's the detail of this manifesto that we are launching and selling to the people of Kenya?
If you read the manifesto of UDA, and I think it has been debated by many others, but I don't want to repeat so much, but I just want to repeat to this extent, that they were not clear on, there was no provision for tax in Kenyans. Remember that this housing was in the Kibaki regime.
Yep.
It was in Uhuru regime.
Yep.
It is not an issue that just came from nowhere.
It was in the Azimio
Even
manifesto.
in the Kenyatta government.
Yep.
It has come a long way. That's why we have National Housing Corporation. It was only to be implemented as per the constitution. You cannot use a manifesto to rewrite a constitution. You can only use a manifesto to advocate on issues that you want to come and implement as a government, which is both at the national level and the county level.
Okay.
And that is, to only that extent, I believed that housing should be addressed as a need within every county, because the needs of housing in Uasin
it's devolved.
Is different.
But for 5 years, Alfred Keter, you voted in Parliament for budgets, and the budgets that were presented by the Uhuru Kenyatta administration to Parliament in those 5 years were on the, what was it called? What was the agenda? The Big Five.
The Big Five
agenda. The Big Five agenda had housing as one of them.
Yeah.
And several housing projects were started in the Jubilee administration.
Yeah.
They were being funded by the national government.
Yeah.
They were being started, funded, and being implemented by the national government.
Yeah.
You were in Parliament.
Yeah.
You were oversighting the national government. You voted for those budgets that were going to finance housing by the national government. Now you're saying it's devolved.
But you see, at that time, you must take. I had spoken about their national legislations, which are provided for in the Constitution, on matters to do with cities and urban centers. If you see the housing which was done by Uhuru Kenyatta, it was not in a rural setup. It was happening in a city like Nairobi. For reasons...
Is Nairobi a devolved unit?
It is devolved. But remember, the Constitution has provided for legislations, which includes the national legislations on cities and urban centers, which are agreed with the creation of metropolitan. Because I had spoken about it, just let me repeat it for your sake and others. This city of Nairobi, the needs are different from any other county. And that is why the drafters of the Constitution provided for legislations to introduce other ways of addressing the needs of a city like Nairobi in a manner that you can create bodies like metropolitan and others to support the needs of a city, because they are different. It allows, if you read the Constitution, it allows for cities and urban centers to have that national intervention in terms of legislations and any other financial intervention or forming bodies like metropolitan city and the metropolitan environment.
But within the confines of the Constitution, which acknowledges...
Which is in the Constitution.
Which acknowledges devolution.
Yeah.
Right? Cities is one thing. Urban and municipalities and towns is another thing, which is a whole devolved system. Are you saying that the Uhuru Kenyatta administration ran a Big Five agenda for 5 years on only improving cities and using the national laws, and that's why you voted for budgets to go towards building houses?
Not all the Big
For
Five.
5 years.
I was addressing about the housing because you must remember the governor then, Mike Mbuvi Songo, signed an agreement with the national government delegating some functions, which is allowed by law. You can transfer some functions from the county to national government. But the responsibility will remain with the government that is given the obligation by the fourth schedule.
Let's take a break. We'll come back 23 minutes to 9. Our guest today is the former member of parliament for Nandi Hills, Alfred Keter. He says he wants to be the leader of opposition. If that position is created, you want to take it. Somebody who's outside parliament. We're talking about it and the reasons why he believes that it's a good thing. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
Aspiring entrepreneurs and business enthusiasts, I would like to invite you for the Business Conquest Masterclass that will be happening on April 4th, 2024 at the Nairobi Cinema from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. The guest that we will be having is Michael Joseph, who's the founding CEO of Safaricom, who will be sharing not only his journey, but some of the entrepreneurial challenges and success he has experienced. You can get your ticket for only 800 shillings at madfun.com and actually join us for this particular live recording of the Late Night Business. See you then.
For event partnerships and inquiries, you can contact Ian Dannish on 0720-977-569 or James Njoroge on 0769-999-074.
Serene, spectacular, gorgeous, unique, breathtaking. Everything about this place is just wow.
We normally host events on top of the T. We set up on top of the T. We've had birthdays, we've had engagement parties here. Our roof is our walls, so
interesting, eh? It's cost cutting too.
Yeah, you don't have like those many walls on the sides.
Now let's set an A-frame movement.
Yeah.
As our country home style. I think I like that.
Welcome to Farm Kenya, the groundbreaking agricultural TV show capturing the pulse of our nation's farmlands. Join us on a journey through Kenya's vibrant agriculture scene, celebrating the hardworking individuals shaping our farming landscape. Experience the latest innovations, challenges, and successes that define our fields.
Try and change the attitude of this trainee or this youth and show him or her that agriculture is a course or a career like any other.
Stay informed with special news segments, ensuring you're up to date on trends, policies, and breakthroughs. Farm Kenya is not just a show, it's your portal to the freshest insights, empowering you to make informed decisions for your farm venture. Get ready, Kenya, for a season of excitement and celebration in agriculture. Farm Kenya, working to secure your growth.
Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Alfred Keter, a former member of parliament, Nandi Hills, who is right there, right front and center in opposition politics in the country at present. Mheshimiwa, you had mentioned something about, the organization of the National Assembly and the Senate and saying minority and majority. National Assembly should be one thing, but the Constitution provides for leaders of minority and majority. It does, right?
Yeah.
So what was the contention?
It was just to have a leadership of the majority parties and coalition of parties in National Assembly and both Parliament. for your information, the leader of majority in National Assembly is a leader entirely. I mean, for the whole parliament. Is a leader of political parties or coalition of parties or a single party, a majority party, in both the National Assembly and Senate, as per the Constitution. He represents that, is the leader, is the face of
So you're saying
that political party.
The leader of majority in the National Assembly is also leader in Senate?
Is a leader in Parliament. Parliament as both Senate and National Assembly.
Yes.
As per the Constitution, the only leader that is provided for in the Constitution is the majority leader in the National Assembly. Minority leader in the National Assembly is the leader of, majority in Parliament. If you read the Constitution. And
No, we hear you.
We are living on a...
It does not mention Senate.
It does not mention Senate.
Okay.
And it is not an omission. Because Senate should not act as a representing parties or there is a minority and a majority side. Senate acts as a unit to defend and protect the county governments. If you see their functions, what they have done all over time, there is an hangover of the previous constitution. And majority of the first senators who started implementing now the new constitution, which I was in parliament that time, in 2013, had an hangover of the National Assembly, or the parliament, the previous parliament, in the previous constitutional dispensation. And they wanted to have the same setup like the National Assembly. And I think the drafters of the constitution did not want to have a Senate which sits like National Assembly.
They wanted it to be different.
I saw Kipchumba Murkomen answering questions in the Senate.
Yeah.
There is no constitutional provision to that effect. It is only the National Assembly which oversights the executive. There is no
power of oversight
to an executive, to a cabinet secretary.
The oversight is for the county governments.
For the county governments.
Just to protect devolution.
Yeah.
Let me read what Article 108 of the Constitution says. Party leaders. There shall be a leader of the majority party and a leader of the minority party. Full stop.
Yeah.
2. The leader of the majority party shall be the person who is the leader in the National Assembly of the largest party or coalition of parties. The leader of the minority party shall be the person who is the leader in the National Assembly of the second largest party or coalition of parties.
Yeah. And it ends there. We are on an hangover. The problem, the biggest of our problems in this country, and I believe that is the reason why I have said, let me take this position to be the leader of official opposition. Because I believe this country, we can transform it better than what we are doing at the moment.
Than we are doing at present.
We are actually working on backwards. Because number one, we live on a dream. It's not a reality. I have seen people bragging about the dollar. It's coming down to 132, 133. Do you know the reason why it is 133? Two reasons.
I don't even know why it went up in the first place.
Yeah. It went up because we are losing confidence, investor confidence. We were about to default on a loan. The moment we paid, it went down. Do you know how we paid? Because we took another loan. Are we richer now? We are poorer now. Because we took another loan. The only good thing with this loan is giving us a window of up to 2029 to repay. That's the only good thing. In terms of the interest, is higher.
2029?
2029, something like that.
It's 5 years
It's 5 years, it will catch up with us.
That's not far.
When we continue messing up. And you must remember, Eric, let me repeat with the city and our sister Ndu. On this issue, I believe if we had implemented the Constitution as per the spirit of the drafters of the new Constitution, the 2010, to the letter, would be far much better. We have the best Constitution in the world. Look at the Auditor General's reports. including the latest. I think you must have seen, where we have lost, I think in 1 year, we have lost land through land grabbing of over 50 billion. That is land meant for new KCC, others for for railways, there is for ADC. It is just chaotic, the whole thing. We are still, we are like a country where we've made mistakes, and instead of correcting the same mistakes, we make very louder mistakes, very bigger mistakes than what we have made. And to inform you further on that, the Constitution gave checks and balances, which it includes Parliament. That is why Parliament, the majority leader in National Assembly, that is Kimani Ichung'wah, my friend and former colleague in Parliament, is more government than the government itself.
There's nothing new.
He's more executive.
Duale was executive.
He was like that. And that is, I fought for 10 years. For 10 years. Including the one I've told you. The moment you lose your power as committee members to elect the leadership of committees, you've lost Parliament. Parliament functions at the levels of committees. That is where interrogations happen. That's where the summons happen. That's where reports are done. That is actually Parliament at the level of committee. But if you have a puppet who was, who was installed in State House to chair a committee, what do you expect? To oversight the same government which gave him the mandate to oversight?
Alfred, are you saying that there was a difference between when you joined Parliament first in 2013?
Yeah.
Right? And there was, formation of various committee leaderships.
Yeah.
Are you saying then it was different?
It was different.
How it was conducted later?
Yeah, we elected our members, our leaders, in 2013. But by the time it got to 2017...
There was no guidance, nothing.
There was nothing, not even proposals. We were given, you sit in this committee, the extent that parties went was to give a list to say, as a member of this UDA, or at that time it was URP, TNA, you will sit in this committee. Then you negotiate, you lobby, you do whatever you want to sit in this committee, you convince them, you are allocated a position in a committee.
Was there a silent endorsement coming from the party?
No silent endorsement. You see, even if you were to coerce and lobby for someone, it's different from dictating and saying, this person must sit. Like for my case, they endorse people in State House. Alfred Keter, being what I am, I went to Parliament and campaigned for the seat because the Constitution is clear about it. And both Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto tried to convince me, even on one-to-one. And I challenged them. You want to perform to the best interest of this republic. Yeah? You have a manifesto which you want to implement. If you want to implement, if you mean good for this country, allow Parliament to function as per the Constitution, to be independent. Nobody convinced me otherwise. They left me and coerced and used duales and that time and washalis to go and lobby members of Parliament to say we have no confidence in Alfred Keter. After 2 days in election, some were even saying that we were out of our minds when we elected Alfred Keter. Because they had to write something.
So the members made a decision.
Not members. What they did, because the members must make a decision.
Yeah,
so they called all the members.
So same way you campaigned is the same way others campaigned.
No, you see, you
but
cannot
the decision
blackmail.
was made by members.
I'm saying the problem, of course, lies with the members.
Okay.
It lies with the members. And I even I spoke about it in Parliament many times. It lies with the members because even after, like me, what stops you from coming out of State House with a list and saying that list was like any other proposal?
So then can we ask the question, because it's always been in my mind then, that if you have an intent to do something, regardless of what happens, that you will stick with your intent, isn't it?
And that is exactly what I did.
Right? So then, from what you're saying now, is that we have quite a lot of members of Parliament, or rather those who are representatives in terms of legislation and indeed oversight, that then actually are not there representing the people, but they're there to sing or rather dance to the tune of the executive, and that is the reality.
Yeah, that is true. That is 100% correct. Let me say something on this. You see, that is one of the questions which I expected, and I really want to demonstrate it this way. The reason why Parliament is there is because it wants to provide checks and balances. Members of Parliament should reason objectively to oversight in an objective manner. I don't mean to just oppose. When it means good for the people, support it. When there's damage, or it can cause any damage, or it can cause any problem to the people you represent, challenge it. And there was a member of Parliament last week, it's actually this week, on Monday, who was challenged, and then she was asked, she was from Muranga County, let me not mention names. She was asked, what happened? How did you pass this law, the finance bill, which is now making us to be paying some taxes we didn't know.
For avocado.
Yeah. It's good you remember, Eric.
It's in the news.
And then,
It's in the news.
then she said it's like a Bible. Really? You mean the finance bill? It means two things here. One, that member of Parliament, which I don't want to call them honorable members. They are not honorable. And I hear some normally introduce themselves. I'm honorable so and so. You allow others to honor you. It is not you to call yourself you are honorable. It's Eric to say you are honorable. But you cannot say I'm honorable so and so. It's not a doctor. It's not you did not earn it. So, that honorable member, I'm sorry to use the name honorable, does not deserve to be called honorable member. Because one, she is either does not know her roles as a member of Parliament. Two, she did not even consider, or she has no capacity to consider a bill. You know, there are 3 stages of a bill.
Did you experience such members during your
We
time?
had so many.
Who are not reading
And
bills?
it is not about they didn't go to school. You know, being a psychophant,
Okay.
the qualities of a psychophant, you remove your brain and put it
Mheshimiwa,
aside.
Mheshimiwa, I want you to pause there. Thank you for bringing this up. What happens to members of Parliament once they take that oath of office? Because there's this person you know to be an upright person, stands for the right of the downtrodden. In fact, the reason why they were elected. Then they get there. What happens?
The challenge.
You are there for 2 terms. What happens?
Chalewa is saying the same thing on social media. He says these politicians have their minds when they're out in the cold until they get to power.
But it is partly true, but not
Not entirely.
Not entirely.
Because I was in Parliament, and you remember, I spoke about the ills of government 24/7 for 10 years in my entire time. You remember I spoke about the NYS, I spoke about the cost of doing the railway, I spoke about all these things. And most Kenyans know me for that. To answer CT on that issue, you see, most members of Parliament, when you're elected, they are dark forces, including the ones who are in status. They use money to manipulate your thinking completely. By the time you are 2 weeks, you don't even know what you represent.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
How is that done?
It's so easy. You are taken to State House, then you have lunch with the president. You know, having lunch with the president.
It's a big
And
thing.
some of these people have never been to Nairobi. They were brought here. Some did not even have cars. They were bought fast cars in Parliament.
Yeah.
So they get here, they are stuck, including even my member of Parliament. Sorry to say so. He was not driving before he got to Parliament.
Okay.
So when you get here, you have a car, and then you have a driver, you have a bodyguard, then you are sitting with the president. Eric, you are human. It stops completely. It
What,
takes
the
those
brain?
bold.
The brain stops functioning.
It stops, even for some doctors. And you know, with the levels of psychopathy, again, psychopathy is like a disease. It's the worst disease than cancer. Because you see, cancer, you can know.
Just the presence of the head of state
Lunch.
sitting across the table. with a,
Just sitting with the president. And then he's free, talking to you nicely. Then you're given some small money, 100,000. These people are so cheap. Some even make legislation in Parliament after getting some 5,000 or 10,000. Yeah. It's so unfortunate. I think it has been spoken about by many others. But let me not speak about that. The challenge is that we are losing a Parliament, which is a independent constitution provided for independent institution, provided for by the Constitution with roles and obligation to check the excesses of the executive.
And yet this doesn't happen. It
doesn't happen.
We talked about the 12th Parliament many times on this show. And we talked about how many Kenyans were expressing frustration with Parliament. You are a member of that Parliament.
Yeah, I was a member of that Parliament.
And we were kept talking about it and saying, look, it appears as though they don't even have to debate. And it's the same thing that we are seeing now in the 13th Parliament. It's as soon as a matter is brought, the Speaker
have to
is told,
vote.
let's go to the vote. Put the question.
Yeah.
Can the mover respond?
Yeah.
And there's no debating happening.
You see, and they utilize some of the provisions.
So why are we losing Parliament? It can't just be because someone is bringing 100,000 shillings and a car.
And lunch.
It can't be. What else? Or what is it?
Eric, is more than that.
What is it?
And that is a very good question. And I want to remind you that Parliament was not the same as it is now. What we found in 2013 was different. Let me give you a small history, then I answer your question. When we joined Parliament in 2013 with the new Constitution, the current Parliament, as per the provisions of the Constitution, is more powerful than the previous one.
Yep.
As per the Constitution.